It doesn't matter like what we're talking about, who we're talking to. We can be talking to our child. We can be talking to our best friend, our spouse, our business partner, our lover. And we can just think about and listen through and watch for, ooh, that would be good for my listener. And it only needs to be 5 or 10 minutes.
Most hosts never achieve the results they hoped for. They're falling short on listenership and monetization, meaning their message isn't being heard and their show ends up costing them money. This podcast was created to help you grow your listenership and make money while you're at it. Get ready to take notes. Here's your host, Adam Adams.
I just had a really good call with a gentleman that I met at Podcast Movement. My team was sponsoring. And during the call, he said, you guys are one of the most expensive teams out there, but I now know why. Because we just had a conversation where I just threw a bunch of things at him. I listened to him. He said I was the only one who listened to him. He said everybody else is just like cut and dry. We can do it or we can't. And I'm like doing that doctor thing where you prescribe, where you're figuring out what's broken. Does it hurt if I do this? Does it hurt if I do this? How long have you been doing that? What is your diet like? How old are you? What's your exercise routine like? How are you sleeping? What medications are you taking? When you ask all these questions, you can really understand, it will support. And today, this conversation isn't about me being expensive or cheap. That's not part of the conversation. Although when I was having this conversation with this person, he and I went through his podcast and I was like, hey, let's just listen to parts of one of your episodes. I said, we'll take 5 minutes. I'll listen to the beginning. I'll spot check some of the middles and I'll listen to the end. And I found out a few things. So really what I want you to get, and by the way, welcome back, podcaster. I'm your host, Adam Adams. This is the podcast on podcasting. And today we're talking about getting content from everyday conversations. So I just have a conversation with this guy. His name's Mike. Great guy. I'm having a conversation with him. I'm having a back and forth, finding out more, listening to his podcast. And I found out that he had his pull quotes or his teaser was way too long. And the algorithms in science shows that they need to be shorter. So I talked to him about that. I talked to him about the music level because I couldn't hear. I talked to him about feel, felt, found so that he could learn how to do some more episodes. I talked to him about his outro and how the music went on really, really long and what that meant to him and also triggering some algorithms. And I talked to him about doubling his production. So he doesn't do the amount that he's doing, but he doubles it. And so I give him all this stuff and he's like, man, I'm really glad we had this conversation. He's like, yeah, you are one of the most expensive people out there who does all of this. But now I see why. I've gotten thousands of dollars of value just from this short conversation that we've had. And he also said he teaches a podcast class, which is really rad. He's done over 100 episodes. He works for a company. He works for a not-for-profit. And at this not-for-profit, he's the editor, he's a producer, he's the host of his podcast. He wears all of the hats. And at the end, he's like, even though you guys are the most expensive, I want to work with you. Give me some more information. I'm going to talk to my team because this is incredible. Not only that, he says he teaches a class on podcasting that he teaches regularly. He's like, you know your stuff. And he's like, you already gave me 3 things. Now, ultimately, by the end of the conversation, he left with 6 really good takeaways. 6 really, really good takeaways. But at this point in the conversation, he was thinking 3. So he's like, you've already told me about these quotes and the length, and I'm going to teach that to my people. And he's like, you already told me about the music level. I'm going to teach that to my people. And he goes, you already taught me about this. And he goes, that was super, super valuable to me and my company. And he goes, I'm going to be forever grateful. And we finished the conversation. He gets 3 more takeaways. And he's blown away and he's like, show me these packages again. I'm going to try to find a way to get my company, my superior, he has a boss, manages his department. He's like, just tell me more because I'm going to try to get him to hire you because like working with you is invaluable to me. And at the end of the conversation, guess what I came away with? What did Adam come away with? Well, one of the things that I told him is that he was having these medium length episodes. And I said, I love that you have these medium length episodes because they're not too long. I do some episodes that are a little bit longer, some that are a little bit shorter, but I'm loving that your consistency in trying to stay in that 15 to 20 minute range. And I'm actually surprised by it sometimes because it's not easy to do that. And as I was pouring in with him and I was trying to help him figure out how does he go from 1 a week to 2 a week? How does he go from one every other week to one per week? How is he going to do that? Well, A, he might need our help. Who knows? He might need our help because it takes him a really long time to edit his episodes. B, what else does he need? He needs to be able to keep putting out content. And so I gave him an idea of how do you put out more content? And that's a question for you. You're listening. How do you continue to put out regular content? Think about it. And my takeaway was that we get our own content from everyday conversations. So for example, I'm making this episode right now, and it's about having content, bringing out content from everyday conversations. Like he and I were not doing a podcast. It was a discovery call, but it was just a regular old conversation. And now I'm going to have another solo episode that is about these pull quotes and teasers and making sure they're the right length. I'm going to be able to also do one about the music volume and how do we make it the right level. I'll also be able to do one about feel, felt, found. I'll also be able to do one about the outro and triggering algorithms. And I'll also be able to do one about once a week. So I've got the episode that I'm doing now plus 5 more episodes. And how did I do it? I was in a 40-minute conversation with one guy, and I just noticed a couple of things that he was working on, that he was struggling with, that he could have changed. And now I'm able to make 6 different episodes that are all like 5 minutes or 10 minutes long. So I was able to have a 40-minute conversation with one guy, and now I have about an hour's worth of content, AKA I've got 6 episodes, 6 solo episodes. And the takeaway is it doesn't matter like what we're talking about, who we're talking to. We can be talking to our child. We can be talking to our best friend, our spouse, a partner, a business partner, our lover. We can be talking to a potential client. We could be talking to a current client. And we can just think about and listen through and watch for, ooh, that would be good for my listener. And it only needs to be 5 or 10 minutes. And that's a huge benefit is I can come in with this 5 or 10 minute episode today, probably going to be like 10 minutes. And I can share a story, a real story about a real conversation that I have with somebody about us being expensive, but him still wanting to hire us. And I can pull out these 6 different things, which today's episode is getting content from your everyday conversations. And that is the miracle about it. And that makes me grateful. That makes me happy. That makes me feel glad that I'm having these conversations. But I want you to also be glad about your conversations. Not only that, but I want you to be watching out for the content that you can get. Just from this short episode that I'm doing right now, you probably, regardless of what your podcast is about, you could probably find a way to take concepts from this and do it on your own podcast. If it's about sales strategy, if it's about early morning routines, if it's about, there's so many things about your podcast, growing an audience, doing an episode once a week, the music level, whatever, anything that I've talked about, you might be able to do 2 or 3 or 4 different episodes out of just listening to this one. Imagine if you listen to the next one and the next one, and you're always taking notes and coming up with ideas and having conversations with kids, your spouse, your business partner, etc., your client, your potential client. And that is when you pull stuff out and you say, my listener, my perfect avatar, the person that I could work with, they would benefit from this. So I'm going to take that, I'm going to write it down, and I'm going to do a quick few episodes where I'll sit down for like an hour, and I could be able to record 3 or 6, 3, 5, 4, 5 or 6 episodes. And have those be able to be scheduled out and queued up so that over the next 6 weeks or so, I have regular content coming out. And it's all stuff that my perfect avatar needed because Mike was asking these questions, because Michael was working on these things. I knew that you might be working on these things. And so it was very beneficial for me to get that content for my everyday conversation. I'll see you on the next episode. Oh, hey, because 3 of my clients came to me recently looking to find a way to have their podcast make them money instead of cost them money. We put together a resource for some of our clients, and I want to give it to you as well. It's something that did actually seem to help because one of them is now making $2,600 a month, another one's $4,500 a month, and the third is making between $5,000 and $10,000 each month. And so it's been a resource that's been incredibly valuable to them. It's our sponsor sheet template. It's a template of a sponsor sheet, and it gives you something that you can hand to potential sponsors and hopefully also be making $2,600, $4,500, or between 5 and 10K regularly each month with your podcast. So this has been a contributing factor to helping all 3 of those clients turn their podcast into an additional income stream for them. And the way that you can find it is just going to our website, growyourshow.com, but put in /templates, growyourshow.com/templates. And then you can actually download that template and others that could be valuable to your podcasting experience. I'll see you on the next episode.